If you read just one book this year, make it this one. Most people spend years making mistakes that could be completely avoided in just 10 minutes. In this video, we're unlocking the core lessons from Theo of Golden by Allen Levi. An 86-year-old man moves to a small town knowing not one single soul, and within weeks he's transformed the lives of strangers just by giving away pencil drawings. No app, no algorithm, no grand strategy. Just attention. This is Theo of Golden by Allen Levi, and it might be the gentlest masterclass on human connection you'll ever come across. Let's break down exactly what this old man does that the rest of us have forgotten how to do. Lesson 1. Curiosity is the real currency of connection. Theo arrives in the town of Golden owning nothing but time and interest. On his very first morning, he takes a 2-block walk that turns into an hour-long crawl because he stops for everything. The ironwork on a building facade. The composition of old bricks. A begging bird on a bench. He even pulls out a magnifying glass to study an azalea bloom. This isn't quirky old man behavior for its own sake. It's the entire operating system of how Theo builds relationships. When he walks into the Chalice coffee shop and sees 92 pencil portraits on the wall, he doesn't just admire them and move on. He spends an hour studying each face, wondering about their stories, their worries, their joy. That level of sustained attention is rare, and people respond to it instinctively. Shep the barista notices Theo's genuine fascination and opens up immediately. The lesson here applies far beyond a fictional Georgia town. Genuine curiosity about the small details of someone's world is the fastest way to earn their trust. Most people go through life starving for someone to actually notice them. Theo's superpower isn't wealth or charm. It's that he actually looks. Lesson 2. Generosity works best when it costs you something personal, not just financial. Theo could have written Mr. Ponder a check and bought all 92 portraits in one transaction, letting the gallery staff handle distribution. In fact, Ponder suggests exactly that. Theo refuses outright. He insists on delivering each portrait himself, one at a time, meeting each recipient face-to-face at a park bench by the fountain. This is the difference between charity and connection. Anyone with money can write a check. Few people are willing to sit nervously on a bench, worried a stranger might call the police on them, just to hand a young woman a piece of paper with her own face on it. When Theo gives Minette her portrait, he doesn't just hand it over and leave. He tells her a story about a girl he once loved in Spain, he asks about her life, and he creates space for her to unload a secret she's never told anyone outside her husband. The gift becomes secondary to the encounter itself. If you want to actually change someone's day, the money or the object matters less than your willingness to be present and vulnerable while giving it. Theo risks embarrassment, rejection, even suspicion of being a con man, because real generosity requires exposure, not just expenditure. Lesson 3. Withholding judgment creates space for truth. Watch what happens in the conversation between Theo and Minette at the fountain. She's a successful CPA, married, seemingly put together, but within 30 minutes of meeting a stranger, she's crying about an abortion she had in college at her father's insistence, something only her husband and one other person knew about. Why does she open up to a man she's known for less than an hour? Because Theo never once flinches, judges, or offers a quick fix. When she says, "Don't laugh," before admitting she just wants to be a mother and a housewife instead of a corporate partner, he doesn't laugh. He nods, as if to affirm the sanity and beauty of her desire. When she describes the sadness in her own portrait, he doesn't rush to comfort her out of it. He says something remarkable: sadness might be many things, but it is rarely stupid. The good sadness is always trying to tell us something very important. That single line reframes her entire self-perception. People carry shame because they expect judgment. When you remove judgment from the equation entirely, and simply receive what someone tells you without flinching, they will tell you things they've never told anyone. This is a skill, not a personality trait, and it's one you can practice starting today. Lesson 4. Mystery and restraint build more trust than full disclosure. Here's something counterintuitive. Theo doesn't explain himself fully to anyone. Not to Shep, not to Tony the bookseller, not even to Mr. Ponder at first. He deflects questions about his past with vague, warm non-answers. I have lived in a number of places. I have some business concerns. When Tony asks directly why an 86-year-old man would relocate to a small Georgia city, Theo gives an answer that sounds complete but reveals almost nothing. He wanted to see the American South before he dies. You'd think this evasiveness would make people suspicious of him, and initially it does. Mrs. Gidley, Ponder's secretary, distrusts him immediately, calling him too nice and too slick. But notice what actually earns people's confidence in the end. It's not information, it's consistency of character. Theo treats the bookseller with the same warmth he shows the wealthy consultant. He tips his hat to a secretary who scowls at him daily. He remembers names, asks follow-up questions, and never postures for status. Eventually, even the skeptical James Ponder, a man who has spent decades protecting wealthy clients from con artists, decides to trust Theo based on an extended private conversation, though the book keeps us outside that room. The lesson is that trust isn't built through oversharing your resume or your reasons. It's built through repeated, unwavering evidence of decency, even when no one is watching or reciprocating right away. Lesson 5. A single act of attention can reframe someone's entire self-image. The most powerful moment in this section of the book isn't the portrait reveal itself, it's what Theo says while handing it over. He doesn't call Minette pretty or lucky or successful. He tells her the face in the drawing belongs to someone strong, brave, kind, and capable of saintliness. He literally calls her the Gold of Golden and presents the piece as the portrait of Saint Minette. This might sound theatrical, even excessive, but consider the effect. Minette has spent her entire adult life being told by her father that she's disappointing, that her softer desires like wanting to be a mother are somehow shameful, that achievement is the only currency that matters. In one evening, an elderly stranger looks at her and reflects back a completely different narrative, one rooted in virtues she'd stopped believing she had. She hangs the portrait where she gets dressed every morning and starts each day whispering back the words Theo gave her. That's the real mechanism of transformation in this story. Theo isn't fixing anyone's problems. He's handing people a mirror that shows them a truer, kinder version of themselves than the one they've been carrying around, often shaped by parents, bosses, or critics who never saw them clearly in the first place. The bigger picture. What makes Theo of Golden so quietly powerful is that none of this requires wealth, though Theo happens to have it. Everything meaningful he does could be replicated by anyone willing to slow down, pay attention, withhold judgment, and risk a little vulnerability in the process of being generous. He doesn't fix Minette's relationship with her father. He doesn't erase her grief. He simply sees her, names what he sees, and gives her permission to feel what she's been suppressing for years. If there's one takeaway to carry out of this story, it's this: the people around you are quietly carrying portraits of themselves that were drawn by people who didn't take the time to really look. You have the chance, in any ordinary conversation, to hand someone a truer picture. That's the entire art of being like Theo, and it costs nothing but your attention. If this summary saved you hours of reading and gave you real value, hit the subscribe button right now. Leave a comment below letting us know which book you want to see next. And if you want to keep growing your mind, click the video appearing on your screen right now. See you in the next 10 minutes.